Welcome back, everybody, to On Point Talk, the Carlette Christmas Show. It's that time of the week that we're joined by our regular contributor, Al Turner of Turner & Turner Contracting. He's an entrepreneur. He's a game changer. He's a lifelong learner and teacher, and he always shares that profound wisdom. DC just calls them dimes that he drops. Al, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Carlette. Good morning, DC.
So what are we talking about this morning?
Oh, well,
what's the dime?
The dime. Well, we're going to talk about how to survive, thrive, and emerge in an ever-changing marketplace and in business, in our life, in general. You know, we try to touch all facets of a person's life, an individual's life. But as a person, an entrepreneur, person in business, again, I always really try to touch on that, as well as how that connects to our personal lives as well. So, you know, we're currently right now in today's time, you know, we're just living in just, you know, a time in which, you know, a lot of things that we are norms, that we may have known as norms, they are changing and have changed, you know, and a lot of people are really talking and speaking of, you know, how do we cope with this? How do we overcome that? You know, how do we deal with certain things? And certainly we see from a personal and spiritual perspective as well, because, you know, I can't leave that out too. We see a lot of things happening, destructive things and stuff that are happening in the lives of people and stuff too as well. So that's what we really want to really get into a little bit today, how to survive, thrive, and continue to emerge, overall grow in our entire life as a whole, whether it's our personal lives, whether our business life, our spiritual lives. So that's what we're really going to talk about today and get into a little bit more.
Have you been giving that a lot of thought, like most people in the changing world, how to not just survive but thrive?
Yes. I think that needs to be a focal point for everyone, not to just survive, but how to thrive in life as a whole. Because, you know, I mean, me personally, I don't just want to exist. You know, I want to thrive in everything that I do. In other words, we want to excel in everything that we do, you know, and ultimately from a spiritual standpoint, we want to be a blessing to others. You know, we don't want to just be on the receiving end all the time, you know. So it feels good. Doesn't it feel good when you're able to give
Absolutely.
and to help others and put a smile on other people's faces and everything? So, and knowing that you have affected the life and impacted the life of someone else or other people or another organization, whatever the case is. So that's the joy that you get from it all as well. And
so where do we start in this new culture, you think?
Well, in the new culture, I mean, it's a great question. We just have to look at, you know, where we start is from within, first of all. You know, and we really want to start with that point. We kind of touched on it to one of our last segments too as well. You know, we see, first of all, from a personal perspective, there's a lot of deception and deceiving and things that's going on in the world today. And we just really have to reconnect from a personal standpoint from what is truth. We have to separate when we talk about deception, truth from lies. And that's in everything. Again, I'm starting out with the spiritual aspect. Then we're going to move on from that to business and our personal lives and everything. But, you know, there's a lot of deceiving and deception that goes on in the world today. Even when we look at, you know, we have social media and things that are online and stuff, and a lot of things, you know, people can, you know, I'm not an IT person, anything like that, but you can crop out pictures and, you know, create a lot of, you know, just propaganda, so to speak. So we have to, you know, consciously and constantly be aware of deceiving schemes from, you know, the enemy and the world as a whole, and move forward to be able to connect with the truth, speaking of the word of God particularly, and to be a solid foundation for our lives. That's the basis and that's the foundation in which everything starts and ends, you know. And then when we talk about moving on into looking at how to survive, you know, when we go in and trying to survive personally and spiritual, that's where we start the survival right there connecting or reconnecting with the Word of God. But also, looking at as we move into, say our business, when we go into the business aspect, I did talked about during the one of the chamber events, talking about the 3 P's of capacity building. And, that's why I really want to tie that into, because when we look at economics overall, and whether it's our personal, our family economics, or whether it's our business economics, we're talking about how prices and the cost of goods and services are continue to escalate, and how do we survive that? And a lot of times we don't really think about the things that we spend our money and time on. But we have to really take a step back nowadays and really think twice and consider what we are purchasing, our purchasing habits, so to speak. And I always say this, one of the best and fastest ways to make money and to save money, is to not spend as much, reconsider what we're spending our money on. A lot of things, if you just take a step back and think about, even myself and anyone out there that's listening, you think about the things that we purchase, the things that we have been purchasing or spending our money on. Something like, for instance, me, I told you about my goal is to lose, some pounds, 20 pounds this year and stuff, and try to, get better physically fit, because I'm working on my fitness. I'm working on not only but my faith and my family as well, and my finances.
Right.
So I'm working on all those 4 pillars in my life in this season right now. And then again, that's another point of, again, surviving and thriving in the world that we're in now from an economic standpoint, is we have to really reel back how we spend our money and what we spend our money on, and that's how we can really add to, our savings, our checking, or just to grow our financial portfolio, is to be able to save more, because you can't do anything. You can't spend more or spend on the right things until we save. And how do we save is we have to really evaluate what we're currently spending, what's our current spending habits, and change some of those habits.
Do you think that in the culture that we're living in, that people really understand, we see prices going up everywhere. We hear about tariffs, and I'm no expert certainly on tariffs, but we know that means that prices are going to rise. Do you think that people are really taking that seriously, saying, I got to dial back and do something different?
Yes. I mean, and again, yes, to answer your question, yes, I feel a lot of people are, I talk to different people in the marketplace and industries, and as well as, financial investors as well, and everything. And, recently when they first came out with it, where the market dropped, and for, the stock market and different things, stuff like that. And, but I share in that specific instance, I was sharing with the individual at that particular time that, even though we are invested in the marketplace, even though the marketplace, if you're an investor in the marketplace, we know as investors that the marketplace goes up and down. It fluctuates. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So when the marketplace fluctuates and goes down, we really haven't lost. The loss only takes place and occurs if you decide to pull out at that time. Right. So again, that's where I spoke about earlier, the propaganda. We just look at things and we hear the news, and depends on what news channel or station you're on. It depends on if that news is saying who you're going to believe. Is it, if it's cast in a positive or negative light.
Right. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we'll talk about some of the things that are being rolled back and how we need to look at those things to thrive in today's culture and economy. Stay on point. We're back after this. This show is being brought to you in part by Turner & Turner Contracting, satisfying expectations more than just a builder. Our guest this morning is a regular contributor to the OPT network, Al Turner of Turner and Turner Contracting, and we're talking about not just surviving, but thriving and emerging. And before we went to the break, you were talking about all of the changes. And I wonder, as an entrepreneur and somebody that's been doing business for a long time, are you concerned with all of the rollbacks that we're seeing in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yes, directly I am concerned, but I want to make sure that I stress the fact that I'm not worried. I'm concerned because as an involved person in the industry, which I'm actively in, I'm always want to be on the cutting edge of of changes, and we all live in a competitive society and world. So, but definitely not worried. As we live in the information age, and we have all kind of access to technology and things and stuff like that, we have to constantly, as business owners, and no matter what industry you find yourself in, we always have to redefine ourselves. We have to redefine ourselves. We always have to seek the competitive edge. And let's just face it, the world is a lot less. It's a lot smaller now, and what I mean is for the access to technology and in the internet and things and stuff like that. I can reach, and you can reach. We can all reach places that we didn't have access to before. I'm gonna just use the example for higher education and learning. We used to use the main focus just going to, for instance, to college and to going, to the physical college.
Right.
But now you can earn degrees and stuff online. I can apply for opportunities in, the out west, in California and Northeast and so on and so forth, in other countries as well. So, I mean, we have access to so much more now. And that's why we're living in a time to where we have to just rethink and re-strategize how we do things. We have to prepare ourselves and build ourselves up to be even more competitive in the marketplace than we have before. Because as a federal contractor myself, there was a seminar that unfortunately I wasn't able to attend yesterday, but it was recorded. I'm gonna go back to it and listen to it here in the upcoming days when they release it. But it was through Govology. And what that particular seminar was basically talking about, how we can, as federal government contractors, can how we can change and refocus our efforts to be able to compete in the federal marketplace with all the changes. There's also different regulations that are changing in the federal government, which we call the FAR. It's called we have a lot of acronyms in the federal government, but as far as the Federal Acquisition Regulation, those are regulations that govern how the government acquire goods and services, and how we as contractors are to perform. And that's the standard that they have for us in that. But all of that is being rewritten. All of that is being changed. There are small business set-asides. There are 8A, as I'm an 8A set-aside business. We're an 8A set-aside business. We're SBE, DBE, all these other different biz set-asides. There are woman-owned set-asides.
What? For people who don't know.
Well, all of those are different what we call set aside or small business designations, just to simplify things, which the government has had mandates to do, for instance, of the part of the overall budget of the federal government, which is maybe like trillions, whatever dollars, but they have a certain percentage of the federal government's budget that they seek to do business with small businesses. Say, for instance, 15% goal. So out of the federal budget, the government has particular goals to do 15% of business with small businesses. Out of those small businesses, you may have a certain percentage of the government's budget that they want to do business with woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, service disabled veteran-owned small business, 8A small business, so on and so forth. So as a organization or business, they acquire those certain designations and set aside designations. What that does is that places them in a certain pool where they can compete not against other large firms, but also firms of like size and like manner, which again, it just helps them compete more. Now, a lot of those things are being changed, even from a large contractor, say one of the, I'll just use one because they have a similar name as we do, but one of the largest contractors, may be the largest one in the nation, I'm not sure, but they certainly are one of the largest, is Turner Contracting, or Turner Contract. They're out of northeastern New York or somewhere. Well, say for instance, a large contractor example of them that may get a federal government contract. Well, they're a large contractor, okay, that has no limitations, or what we'll say. But with that large contractor, they will be awarded and pursue a large contract, say for billions of dollars or whatever, with the federal government. But the federal government would have a small business contracting requirement, which that large contractor would have to submit a small business contracting plan to the federal government of how they seek to, or how they will be prepared, and what their plans would be to be able to do business with other small businesses. So a lot of those things and those dynamics and requirements are changing within the federal government work space. So it's not just what we see for, as the IRS now and different other agencies and stuff that are changing. The federal government as a whole, yes, is changing, and the way we do business and have done business has and is changing. So what that does is that means that we have to sharpen our knives and be able to be one of the sharpest tools in the toolbox, so that we can compete even more. We see a lot of rollbacks with diversity, equity, inclusion, and stuff like that that's happening in the marketplace. And I encourage everyone, in any set aside of anything, or even the ones that we have too, the first thing I would go in when I'm marketing ourselves and share with everyone is not that I have a certain set aside, not that we are a minority owned firm. I focus on, this is one of the things that we focus on in business is, I sell ourselves on the features and the benefits of doing business with Turner Contracting. Right. Oh, and by the way, we are certified in this. We are certified in that. But
that doesn't totally define.
Right. Because when you go in with the mindset of defining yourself and your organization as, hey, we are this set aside, or we are this minority owned firm, or we are this or that. Well, that's how the world, for instance, and people will look at you and see you as. But when people see you as, you're bringing straight value to their organization, or you're bringing, which, we're all in it in business, so to speak, to make money and things and stuff like that, and provide various resources and stuff to others. So when people see you as a value add, well, that's a totally different dynamic than, hey, I just want to have a relationship with this person or do business with that organization so I can meet this goal.
There you go. Well, that says a lot. And these are conversations that I'm sure we'll be having more in the coming days. Al, thank you for always making us think just a little bit deeper and a little bit bigger about where we are on this journey called life. Al Turner, Turner & Turner Contracting. Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're back after this.